Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into the late week edition of Judd's Hockey Show. Judd and AJ. Of course, our friend Jesse Pierce will return next Monday or Tuesday. I'm not quite sure of our scheduling yet, but she will return for the early week edition as well. And I think that we'll probably have an episode coming this weekend as well, as it's a busy time. The Wild starting a road trip. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon. They play tonight in Washington. AJ and I were both in attendance, not in the press box, but actually sipping on a few adult beverages on New Year's Eve as the Wild beats Nashville. But let's start with the bad from that game, AJ. Yeah. It looks like Jared Spurgeon is probably going to be lost for, I would guess, a lengthy time. If you didn't see the play, a Nashville player slew-footed him right into the boards. It was an incredibly cheap hit. It turns out that this guy has been suspended 11 times in his hockey career, 9 times in the Quebec League and twice in the American Hockey League. Spurgeon was seen taking off or departing from the building at the X after the game with his right leg in some type of, with crutches and then some type of contraption on his right leg. So this is a big one because Spurgeon had come back, was playing really, really well.
Yeah, he was.
Clearly is one of their still 4 best defensemen. Middleton out already. What do you think about this loss in a season, by the way, AJ, where, the injuries have now mounted? Eriksson Ek out for an extended period of time, Zuccarello out. They're both back now. But it has been a real battle for this team to keep its top players healthy. Kirill Kaprizov on IR, so he's got a lower body injury that I guess sounds like a groin problem, and he could return soon, but we don't know exactly when. Untangle this injury mess for me, sir.
It seems like this team just can't catch a break. And I know every year there's injuries that every team deals with, but it just feels like this team cannot go more than a week without adding somebody else to that injury list. And it's not like it's, nothing against Jacob Lauko, but if it was more Jacob Laukos, I think it'd be manageable. But it's Kirill Kaprizov, it's Drew Eriksson, now it's Jake Middleton, and now it's Jared Spurgeon. It's tough, especially with Jared Spurgeon coming off of what he dealt with last year, multiple surgeries coming back, and I think really the scare early on in the year where it was like one game in, now we might have to monitor this. Now we might have to limit his time, but then he's been a very effective part of that blue line core as of late. Huge blow. Zachary LaRue just, it's a really dirty, really dangerous play.
Unnecessary as hell.
That's the thing.
That's my problem with it. What was the point? He's going into the end boards and you slew foot him, and then turns out the guy in the course of his career, not pro, but in Quebec and then the minors. So he's been suspended a total of 11 times. Absolutely a ridiculous play, and I don't blame the Wild one bit for being furious about it. They should be.
No, absolutely, they definitely should be upset about that. And maybe I'm overstepping here. Maybe I'm jumping too much into the speculation part of things and being a Debbie Downer. But given his age, given his size, depending on the severity, is this I don't want to even say it, but a bookend to a career? Is that going to be kind of it in terms of how, depending on the severity, we don't know a whole lot of information. So I want to say that, take it with a grain of salt, but it's just be prepared for the news being he's either going to be back in a week or two, or this is going to be months upon months LTIR type of thing, and we don't know exactly when Jared Spurgeon comes back. Michael Russo of The Athletic did tweet out the projected lines for tonight without Kaprizov, Spurgeon, Middleton, and Lauko. Do you want to hear those?
Yeah, let's go through them.
All right. So that top line for the forwards is Boldy, Rossi with Zuccarello on the right. Second line, Eriksson Ek centering with Johansson on the left, Hartman on the right side. Goudreau centering the third line with Foligno and Trenin outside of him. And then Merritt Husnudinov with Shore and Jones outside of him. Brandon Gauntz is the last guy out there. Yeah. The D pairs, he says, look scrambled, but it looks like Carson Lambos, who was recalled over David Jiricek, actually won't be making his debut tonight. It'll be According to his projection,
okay,
which if this is true, I'm actually going to be a little upset. Top pairing of Brodin on the left, Faber on the right. Second pairing, Chisholm on the left, Bogosian on the right. And then John Merrill with Travis Dermott. Is it Trevor? Travis? I forget.
Travis Dermott.
Travis Dermott, thank you. And then Lambos was kind of switching in with Dermott, which I don't understand. I know Carson Lambos, for being a first-round pick, has not really panned out.
With 26th, right? I think he was taken 26th
he was
the
late.
Wallstedt draft.
Yes. Because I believe I think they traded back into the first round to select him, if my memory serves me correct. But it was a first-round pick nonetheless, very late in the first round. But he has not panned out after, what has it now been, 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years?
I think it's 4 years.
But at a certain point, I think, and maybe feel free to stop me on this, but I would like to at least see the kid play up. I don't watch a lot of AHL hockey. I check out highlights every now and again. I want to see how Liam Ogren is doing. I wanted to check out how Jesper Wallstedt was faring in his time down there. At a certain point, I would like to see what Carson Lambos has. Yep. Just because if not, then when he potentially is moved in a trade piece, I'm not going to be upset about it. Then it's okay, I can part ways with this guy a little easier. We saw Dermott a couple games ago. Since being signed from free agency, he was cut from the Oilers. I have not thought he would. There's a reason why he was let go from the Oilers, who have massive defensive troubles. Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. My only thought on Lambos not playing is the opponent. You're playing in Washington. They've been really good.
Yeah.
Ovechkin. I'm just trying to spitball here that they don't want to put the kid out there to fail.
That makes sense.
But I mean, this does show, if nothing else, though, what you've just shown through your line combinations and defensive pairings is how depleted this team is now. And look, I mean, this show does not make excuses. We are not FanDuel Sports North. But that being said, there comes a point in time, too, when, you've lost some just absolutely key guys. And quite frankly, Bogosian scares me there. I mean, so Bogosian's top 4 then.
Yeah.
Okay, that scares me. Merrill or Bogosian playing bottom, playing on the third pairing, I'm okay with. Mm-hmm. That scares me. Here's the other thing, though. And you're going to be on my side when I say this, but I'm going to say this not to be a jackass, but it's an honest question.
Okay.
And I know they like him, and I know he tries hard at times, but why are there so rarely, and it's happened, he was demoted for a bit to the fourth line. Why does Yakov Trenin get so many passes? He literally assisted on a Nashville goal on New Year's Eve. And I'm not saying that jokingly. If you go back and watch the goal, he, for some reason, pivots in his own zone and does it's not a drop pass. He literally just passed it because I think he pivoted on his forehand and passed it to a Predators player. What are we doing here? It was
a really good pass in his defense.
It was a hell of a pass, and he played for the Predators, and maybe he got confused. But it's one thing if he doesn't score a goal, okay?
Yeah.
It's one thing if, let's say, he gets into the offensive zone and he gets overly excited and he screws up. Okay, that's not ideal. But, if you can't be relied upon not to make a stupid play like that, and there's just no pushback, I guess I'm struggling here. Because, look, he's a bottom 6 guy. You can move people up from the fourth line. It's not he's your right, the Boldy thing is tougher, right? Because when we get mad at Boldy, it's okay, they're without Kaprizov right now. Are you really going to demote him? You're probably not going to. Yeah. But the Trenin thing, help me out here. I'm seriously struggling. John Hines, you just saw your guy set up a goal. Why is there never any, that's probably either going to cost you, okay, let's say for a second, you can't scratch him. You're too shorthanded.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to play on the third line. Anyway, end of rant. I just need some help.
You know what? I'll give him credit because we saw it once again. We saw it earlier when Nashville came to town. We saw it again on New Year's Eve when Nashville came to town. But he brings his play to a different level effort-wise when he plays against a team that he formerly was a part of.
Yeah, he'll hit more.
He'll hit more. The forecheck is a little more ferocious. He gets in there. You can hear him huffing and puffing. I'm gonna crash the net here harder than normal.
But it's all for naught when he sets up a goal for his for the opposing team.
I agree. But can you imagine the spin zone here is that now we know that's in his repertoire. We just have to make sure he passes to the right sweater.
It's the best offensive play he's made all season. You're right. That's a great point. I didn't think of it that way. That Trenin has not made a better offense. That was a gorgeous, because he pivoted around, and I believe it was a forehand pass to a Nashville player who scored the goal. You're right.
And it was a quick scan of the ice. You have to know where he identified who he wanted to pass to in a split second. He put the puck right on their tape, set up a terrific goal. Unfortunately, he passed to somebody in white rather than green, and that was the main issue with the goal. So as long as he can fit, maybe he's colorblind. Maybe we just have to get some
thought he was on
rec
Nashville.
specs.
But wouldn't you think that once in a while, like that was such a nice play? Wouldn't you think that, let's say twice so far, he would have set up a teammate for a goal like that? I don't remember one play he made in the offensive zone that was as impressive as the play he made in the Predators' O zone on that goal. But I find it amazing that there's always an excuse. Well, I believe the John Hines post-game comment I saw from a couple of nights ago was, well, this type of play in the playoffs, the way he plays in the playoffs, that's where it's really going to pay off. Not if he sets up goals.
The thing that's interesting and that it just really perplexes me. I know Jessie Pierce, friend of the show, she has mentioned that she's talked to reporters with Nashville, and they've said he looked like a completely different player when he was in Nashville. So I don't know what necessarily has gone on. Maybe he's still adjusting at this point. It's been multiple months into a season.
How long do you have to adjust?
Exactly.
And you're Russian. You came to Nashville and did okay. What's the difference?
I don't understand why. I think we still have 4 years more, 3 years after this. Yeah.
Oh, he's in year one. He's not even through season one of the contract.
And I hate ragging on one guy show after show, but I just need more. And I will say to your point of why isn't he getting pushed down?
Yes.
Ben Jones, I've liked Ben Jones for what he's done.
Thing is,
I liked his role, but you can't move him up to the top 9. He is a fourth line guy who's there. He's a body. He's going to go in and throw his body around a little bit, but he's not a paired with Foligno and Gaudreau, even on that third line. I think.
I would punish him. I would punish Trenin. That was such a boneheaded, stupid, that's the type of play he cannot make. That's the type of play, if a first line guy makes that, you're pissed off, but you're okay, he'll be fine. It's going to be fine. But Trenin's life is to not do that. That's his job. And to do something that egregiously, it's just, every time I think, okay, now I'm starting to see it, right? Now I'm starting to see the contract. Now I get it. Mm-hmm. It blows up. Second question off the move to go with Lambos instead of Jiricek.
Yeah.
With the injury to Spurgeon. What's your theory here? Because now Jiricek, I think, has scored a goal or two. He had only played, in fairness to him, when he was acquired in the trade about, a month ago now? He had only played, I think, 10 games combined between the Blue Jackets and their American Hockey League affiliate in Cleveland. And so, the contention then makes a ton of sense is they kept him with the big club for a while to sort of get him on board, and then sent him to Iowa to get him some playing time. And I think the assumption when Spurgeon went down was, okay, this is going to be his chance. Well, not only is it not his chance, it sounds like they immediately called up Lambos, so I'm guessing that there wasn't a lot of talk about this. What's your either concern here or thought process that's not a concern on the fact that a former top 10 pick and a guy who was slow to develop, but the Wild clearly really likes, didn't get the call in this case?
I'm going to chalk it up to that they just feel he's still kind of finding his stride again. And I would say, I feel like if this was a week or two in the future that they needed to call somebody up, I think he probably does get the call. I saw a clip of his It was his first goal with the Iowa Wild from a night or two ago. He's got one.
Okay.
And it was, Judd, it was beautiful. He got a pass kind of from the low half wall up to the top. He's gliding backwards almost towards like neutral ice. Lets a hammer go, and he beats, I believe it was the Ice Hogs goaltender. But it was a rocket. It showed exactly what Bill Guerin and crew probably are hoping that turns into once he does get up to pro level speed. Because AHL, NHL, that's a step. That is a big step. And I think
it's a big step, yes.
You hear that a lot, is that when guys come up, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a different speed, different size. You're playing against the best players, not the JV essentially, every single night. I think it's more of just time. And similar to how maybe you're talking about with like, it's a... what is it? Washington's played good. They don't want to rush Lambos and maybe put them in a spot to fail. Right. Same thing here. If they're like, okay, if we're not going to trust Lambos, we're probably not going to trust guy who is at 70, 80%. We're not sure he's fully ready to make that. So I'm not going to look at that move and say they'd already this is already a tragedy. We've already messed up. The Minnesota Wild have lost the trade. Deep breath. I think it's just a matter of it was a timing thing. If this was a week or two in the future, I think he probably does get the call.
The reason to call him up would have been the fact that he is a right shot defenseman, which the Wild does not have now. Like this loss beyond Spurgeon being Spurgeon is also the fact that you now are short a right shot defenseman, which definitely hurts. Mm-hmm. Jiricek is that. So that is like the question mark of, okay, where is this kid?
What I'll say is think about if he does play as expected, even just shows some of those flashes. The 1-for-1 exchange of going from Spurgeon to that is he's bigger. He's got some of the same offensive capabilities.
Yep.
He's more physical. Granted, I think the leadership and the veteranness that Spurgeon has obviously does factor in and probably gives him a big edge in that 1-for-1. But if that does end up being the 1-for-1 trade, I think there's a lot worse options. This is,
and the defensive game is the question, correct? The defensive side
from a lot of
from the Jiricek side.
Yeah, from the Jiricek side, from a lot of that was the biggest thing. In his scouting year is that he would wander, he'd maybe drift out of position here and there. Granted, I think the Wild defensively have shown that they their coaching staff is able to get guys to force low angle shots from the outside, blah, blah, blah. So maybe it's just a system thing. Maybe it's a team thing, and he just wasn't getting that sort of coaching in Columbus. So maybe that's not going to be an issue. But defensively right now, Jared Spurgeon has leaps and bounds over Jiricek. But when it comes to a lot of the other parts of the game, I think it's a step down skill-wise for sure. But in terms of size, I think you're going to get that back and probably think, okay, it's nice that he can throw the body around a little bit more.
I think we might have to be prepared for Jiricek to be a 2025-26 guy. I don't know. They're clearly being, and Columbus was too. And I think the difference is that the Blue Jackets soured on the kid, and clearly Bill Guerin likes him. But I wonder if this is a move made for the future because of the deficiencies, because of the fact that they don't want to your point, rush him, because of the fact that we don't know, and now especially, if Spurgeon is back. And I will say this in defense of the Wild. If they think it's just going to take time, I would be more comfortable buying into that plan, because you don't want to rush him, because if he's going to be this big a part of the future potentially, I think it's more important to get this right. And as pleasant of surprise as the majority of the season has been, AJ, we do have to be prepared for, some of the thought process here too is simply this team, it's really about next season and beyond. This is a pleasant surprise. I have no idea if they can win a playoff round. I have no idea who's going to be healthy by the time that spring comes. But I'm not going to be absolutely shocked if in a week or two he doesn't get called up, if Spurgeon stays out, and they just basically have earmarked this as an onboarding season completely and allow him to go play in the Wild system, which they clearly do in Des Moines, and allow him to get comfortable there and go into training camp in the fall of 2025 with the plan that this kid very well could be or should be a top 4 defenseman. You don't want to stunt or slow that growth.
Yeah, I think probably when they made the trade, they expected, okay, we know Brodin's going to come back. Okay, we have all this other stuff. Now I think that this Spurgeon injury, depending on how severe it is, might throw that kind of out the window. That's like I feel like the move was made, like you're talking about, for next season and beyond.
Right.
At a certain, and I don't know, yes,
how much do you push it? My question is this: do you abort that plan at the potential of stunting the kid's growth if you truly don't think that he's prepared to play here yet, and you'll like take what you can possibly get? That's my question.
It probably, God, I would say it probably goes in part with how the rest of the season pans out. Like
Right.
if they,
And do you panic if things don't go well now?
yeah,
Because you're, and here's the thing that worries me a lot right now, and I know he'll be back, but the Kaprizov thing concerns me a lot because if it's a groin problem, those don't necessarily heal without a ton of rest.
that's going to nag.
Yes.
Like that is,
And his game is built on what? His incredible speed. And look, he was playing with this, and he was still probably most nights, certainly the best player on the ice on either team. So I'm not saying he can't do it, but when you get to the playoffs, I mean, we've seen this every time. Time and space disappears, and teams are all over you, and the game changes. And if Kaprizov has a nagging groin problem come April, which is very possible, I just don't know that doesn't change things. I don't want to make excuses, but I can see some of the issues here.
I'd be curious to find out how long he has been dealing with that, because there was like a week or two that you would turn to me every once in a while and be like, he looks tired. He doesn't look like normal 90. I'm thinking maybe he was dealing with this injury and probably like playing through something.
And I wonder when he told him, because
Yeah.
the ice time did not reflect it.
No.
Like the ice time at
No.
times was crazy. So
I think
I wonder
in the
if
week that he disappeared, he had that 28-minute game.
and he's a really, really tough kid. So like, I'm not criticizing him here, but I wonder if he tried to just play through it and hide it, and then it finally got too bad. It's interesting that it came during the break. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like he went in and said, okay, I've been playing through this, but I got to tell you because it's bad now.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is, I think there's more here, and not in a dastardly way, but his ice time does not reflect a concern about a growing problem. So my guess is he played more and more and more, and it got worse and worse, and that's when he told them. Because I don't think that you would try, if you're the team, you wouldn't try and manage it by playing him to what you're saying, which is at times nearly 30 minutes a game.
I'm going to give, and this is going to be like a counter statement because obviously they let him play, but I'm going to give the training and like medical staff the benefit of the doubt here. Like, if you and I, frankly, at times were able to like see, okay, he doesn't look like normal 97, they probably are going to have that type of conversation too and say, hey, Kirill, we have to, like, what's going on?
You're right.
And I mean, you can only do so much because if they recognize something, but he keeps saying like, yes, like it's sore, but I can play. Keep playing me. And maybe they have a conversation of, all right, well, if we go through here, we can kind of make it. And then we're going to have this off period and it's the holidays and we can maybe plan to survive with you throughout this stint of games because we have some time off. And then maybe, we're missing the first two. We're going to miss the second two, blah, blah, blah. And then we're expecting you after that rest to be able to come back and then we can deal with it. It's just get to a certain date before we can say, okay, take some time off, rest up, and hopefully this heals. So,
Yeah, you might be right. And this
it's just speculation at the end.
I was thinking about this morning as well, too. As much as I am looking forward to it, this also why the Four Nations is going to drive me crazy. Because you're going to have Eriksson Ek, who plays his ass off every game, right?
Yeah.
Brodin, I guess. Faber. Like, the tournament's going to be fantastic, but you are rolling the proverbial dice because people are going to get hurt. And then you're going to come back and it's February. This is why, and this might sound tortured, this is why the old Canada Cup format to me was preferable, because at least you did it before training camp. Like my problem now is if you get a guy hurt in February, when's he back? Maybe March, if it's bad enough, the rest of the season. Like if you ramp it up and have a pre-training camp tournament, yes, guys can get hurt, but yes, you can then get guys back probably. Like this is the thing about the Olympics, and these tournaments are all fantastic. So as a hockey fan, I love them, but if I was a GM, I've said this for years, I would hate them, because you're literally telling me that in February you could get a phone call saying Brodeen's back, flared up, it's bad. And now I'm on the hook for that crap, and I'm coming back in a playoff race, or potentially a playoff berth, and I don't have my guy. Like, at least the Spurgeon thing sucks, but it happened in a Wild game, you know? It happened in your game, you know, and I really think that the Four Nations, in my opinion, is going to be playoff style competition.
Yeah, nobody's half-assing it for sure.
No, they're going full bore.
Yes. My biggest thing about that, like, I like this tournament.
I love the idea, so don't get me wrong. I don't like the timing. I would rather do it in the late summer, and then
this should be the ramp up heading into the season.
Yes, and then if a guy gets hurt, I can get him back.
Exactly, because then maybe you start the season without Eriksson or something like that, but then by December now you're getting into the part where you really need him for that second half of the season. He's back, he's healthy. Yeah.
And guys are going to come back gassed. That's my other problem. And the Olympics will be the same thing. Guys come back completely gassed.
Yeah, the Olympics, I guess, is just a weird thing because it's every 4 years. So I guess
you can't control the time of the year.
Exactly. This one, and I think this should, frankly, I have hated the All-Star game for the last 7-8 years.
Awful.
The guys don't want to go, especially if it's not a good location.
Yep.
Like there's certain spots where, frankly, you think Steven Stamkos or whatever, Alex Ovechkin wants to come to Minnesota on what should be his time off or whatever. They probably want to go to LA. They want to go down to Florida. Get away with the All-Star break. If you still want to give guys time off, the whole league, pause stuff for 4 or 5 days if you really have to.
Well, that's the bye week.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist. I think this year it's out because of the
Four Nations,
the tournament. Yeah,
but this Four Nations face-off should go to, like you're saying here, late summer. That should be like your ramp up. Hey, hockey's beginning, and then it's optional for guys because it's like, okay, maybe I just played in the Stanley Cup final. I'm Connor McDavid. I want to be able to. Guys, we lost again because we have too much money locked up. Yeah,
guys will play, but it's the timing, and it drives me crazy because now, the Wild, at least the Russians, it's too bad because if they had a team, it would make the tournament better. But at least the Russians don't play, so Kaprizov can go rest. Last thing before we wrap up here, non-Wild thing from the Central Division. I have a question again for you, which I guess is a statement from me. Can we stop? And it was a fun environment, but you've done it before. Can we stop having the Blackhawks? And this is not an anti-Blackhawks thing, okay?
No, it is.
They suck. They are, I almost dropped the F word. They are terrible. And this is not, look, when they were good, I got it. And you could be like, well, they show the Blackhawks too much. But it's like, yeah, but they got Taves, they got Kane. They're the Stanley Cup champion. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing? That game was atrocious. It was an embarrassment for the Blackhawks, their organization, quite frankly, for hockey. Like, what are we doing? I know Connor Bedard is the future, but quite frankly, he's not good enough at this point. Like,
the key word there is the future. The future.
What are we? But why?
Right now, I don't want to.
Stop it. Stop showing a team that's a Blues Blackhawks game isn't barely worth the price of admission right now if it's played, in St. Louis or in the arena, the United Center in Chicago.
I need it to be done. Also, first off, I'll address your point. Chicago, they cannot have a single specialty game for the next 15 years. They've had too many. Also, they lose every single one of them. They're 0-5 in Winter Classics, Judd. 5 losses.
Really? But they used
0-5.
But those old teams were good at least. They just got beat. That game.
But this now, that was pathetic.
I know.
And to branch off of that, the NHL is totally fumbling in what, in my opinion, is one of the coolest spectacles in sports. Yep. The Winter Classic is such a cool, visually appealing event. You should be able to market that as good as something similar to the Super Bowl. Like, that is, obviously the Super Bowl is one massive thing, but you're filling a massive stadium, whether it's a baseball stadium, whether it's the big house in Michigan, like they did a few years back with, I want to say Detroit hosted the Flyers potentially. Maybe it was the Rangers. I can't remember exactly.
Yep.
It's outdoors. It should be what everything is embodied about, like hockey growing up, the pond hockey atmosphere, but with all the flair and dramatics and the prestige, the grandeur. Like, you're having the halftime show at
Yeah.
I need to have a conversation. Chance the Rapper is fine, but I don't think for a NHL hockey crowd, Chance the Rapper is the right selection. Like, and I feel like they always miss. I feel like they've never once gotten a musical act correct. Remember when they partnered with Green Day for like a 7-year stint and they were playing like the lead-in songs for playoff games? I'm sorry. Frankly, Green Day, that's like classic rock.
Who played here for the Blues? Oh my God. At Target Field.
It was
played a country band.
It was a country singer.
And then Cheap Trick played here for the Stadium Series game at then TCF Bank Stadium against the Blackhawks.
And it was them and Soul Asylum, because I think, from my understanding, they're Minnesotan or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah. Soul Asylum is from Minneapolis. That is correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you weren't born for most of their.
No, I missed the.
Releases.
I got parole from the asylum.
But I just want to know why we put the Blackhawks there. Like,
it's too much. And did you hear? I saw that they're potentially thinking about giving Florida, the Panthers, the Winter Classic.
Yeah, and the
Good
Lightning
luck
are probably
with
gonna
that.
get. Well, here, so here to go full circle back to what you brought up too. This has been my idea. Why don't we make the Winter Classic next time around the All-Star game? Like,
Also,
if you're going to have an All-Star game, it's a perfect format for an All-Star game. And we can screw around. We can play real hockey. We can play 3-on-3. I don't care. It's the spectacle, which, by the way, I loved. Now, it's my opinion that they have diluted it because the Stadium Series got out of control. What you will be told is, but the Stadium Series is very much an individual market event, right? So, like, the market loves it, and that's true. But as far as like the spectacle that used to be special nationally, it was once a year. But let's do an all-star format. Like, the all-star game sucks. So let's do an all-star format as the Winter Classic. I mean, for all I care, you can go somewhere cold because it's, I don't think that Dodger Stadium is a good visual for hockey. I don't think that if you play a game in, I don't know what building the Panthers would use, the Marlin Stadium, like, it's not going to be a good visual. But I was watching that, and I was like, this is a great visual, but the Blackhawks are an embarrassment.
And why are we pushing it a day before? Like,
because
it's always been New Year's Day
playoff games.
I get that, but
there's
also 4 other hockey games going on at the same time.
I know, and it used to be, I think, a solo event. And then I want to say the year that I think the Wild hosted the Blues, I want to say that they did have another game later that day, not outdoors, just a game. But yes, the specialty went out the window because it was one game of like 12 or 13 games, and it was at 4:00. And there's just that game to me was such a great idea at one time. I don't know. So are you really saying the Blackhawks still get a bunch of people to tune in?
At this point,
what are you
I
marketing?
don't think so. Like, they're such a bad hockey team. And to your point about the Stadium Series, my solution for that is similar to how the MLB does like the Little League World Classic, or like they do specialty events for like that.
Yeah.
Do the same thing for hockey, but do pick like a military base that has like a pond or something and play on that. And then do it solely for like service people like that, like are in the
like on a ship carrier.
Yes, do that too.
Build a rink on a ship carrier.
Exactly, something like that. That is something I think people could get behind and have fun with, and it's a good spectacle. It's nationally televised. But the Stadium Series, where it's like, Okay, hey, the Wild Blues, that was fun for us. That was great for us. But the people that are fans of like the Carolina Hurricanes couldn't
no one
care
outside
less.
cares. No, those are done specifically for the community. Unfortunately, what they did was they oversaturate an idea that is a great idea until you see it 87 times. All right, we're done. Oh wait, you know what? I don't think I told
you haven't.
the people yet. Oh, thank you, AJ, for reminding me. Because you know what? We are done, but we're not done talking about our good friends at Park Tavern, located in my neck of the woods, the official sports bar of the Sports Dad, St. Louis Park, located at the corner of Highway 7 and Louisiana Avenue South, open 365 days a year. Park Tavern, of course, has all types of options, including bowling, including a great selection of beer, multiple bars, any drink or any game that you want to watch. Park Tavern will have that on for you. And who knows, you walk in, you might see the Sports Dad sitting at the end of the bar watching, let's say, an outdoor hockey game, because they never bleep an end. But you know what does? What also does not come to an end is the good times at Park Tavern, again, in SLP. Check them out. And if you do, make sure that you take a picture and show me at Jay Zolgad on the X machine the good time that you are having at the Park Tavern. He's AJ. I'm Judd. We'll see you later.